first day, but it felt like for a solid year, maybe even longer, we were talking about this class. We were talking about this draft class. We were talking about how many players would be available. We were talking about, how deep these picks might get. And then by the time it actually rolled around, obviously it was the Cooper Flag sweepstakes, but it was also, Ace Bailey, which is kind of a weird situation. We could talk about that. Dylan Harper, all of these different guys who you kind of knew by name all throughout the college year, but it felt like it truly lacked the cachet that the draft was built up to be in the year prior. We go through 10 picks without a single trade on the first night, and then all of a sudden, we get 10 trades over the next 20. I don't even know how many we got last night. And it's funny if you watch, the by-the-book write-ups, if you watch the by-the-book bottom lines or the by-the-book draft synopsis, you'll see, pick, I'll just make up a scenario, 42 Sacramento Kings via the Golden State Warriors, via the Milwaukee Bucks, via the Houston Rockets. What? I don't care who made the pick. The Kings made the pick. All right, fine, keep it moving. But we have to have this complete detail on how this particular team got to that pick. Now I get that. There were a lot of trades last night, and second round picks are being thrown around all over the place. And we saw the Sacramento Kings make their selection. A big man. They got some people talking. 7-1 French prospect, went to Stanford. Maxime Raynaud, he's got one of those last names. James, I had to ask James, how do you say it? And he said it. And because I didn't practice it, I'm probably going to say it wrong. But I believe it's Maxime Raynaud.
Yeah, it's close.
It's close?
That's good enough.
What is it?
You're doing it right without doing an accent.
Okay.
Which makes it sound like you're making fun of the accent, but it's not.
Okay.
The video I watched of a French guy saying it was like Maxime Raynaud, but that's crazy. So just Raynaud, I think works.
I just knew the last letter was silent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to be careful how you talk on this show. But I knew that the last letter was silent.
Very good.
I was like, okay, you got this. And
it's an
Maxime
X, right?
Raynaud. Nope, it's definitely not. It is definitely not. But he's a 7-1 center who can step away from the rim and shoot a little bit. I was listening to Matt George this morning, reading up on, some of the different write-ups, Sam Vecini being one of them. I know James talking about this early. Sam Vecini, one of the best, write-ups when it comes to college players. His offensive skill set it's really good. He was projected by many to be again, projection is whatever. We've learned projection, especially through the NFL draft, means absolutely nothing. But point being, he was projected to go in the first round. And when you read about why he might have fell to the second round, it has to do with his defense. His defense is a little sketchy at best. And I don't know if that means he's just bad defensively. I don't know if that means he's not quick to pick up on defensive schemes. It seems like schematically working on the offensive end, learning on the offensive end, learning different offensive schemes is easier for so many different guys. And part of that could be it's just no matter what level of basketball you're in or you're at, you're taught to move a certain way. You're taught to move without the ball. You're taught to, run towards the pass, run away from the pass. You're taught to go over the screen, under the screen, depending on who your coach is, over the screen, under the screen, depending on the philosophy. And it seems like so many guys can pick up on that pretty well. But you hear so often about guys struggling to play defense. Defensive schemes sometimes are so much more intricate. We heard the line here in Sacramento over and over and over again over the last couple of years about moving on a string. We heard that. I don't think we heard it as much in the finals, but we definitely heard it in the Western Conference Finals. Oklahoma City's defense moving on a string. It means they're all moving in sync. And sometimes guys struggle moving in sync with their teammates. And that's why we've always been careful. At least I have always tried to be careful about when I criticize a player defensively. I was actually taught this from a professional basketball player. Don't be so quick to think you know what a player did wrong because you don't know what the other 4 people on the floor were supposed to do. We saw that a ton. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to get my jokes off, but we saw it a ton when Buddy Hield was here, specifically in regards to Harrison Barnes. People would be hypercritical of Harrison Barnes when he was playing exactly the type of defense he was supposed to. Buddy was supposed to make a move, but he made the move the wrong way, but he made the move too late. And you could always see it over and over again. You could see the look on Harrison Barnes' face when it was like, all right, like that and not that Harrison Barnes is thinking this, because he's certainly not. When you sit in the film room, that's on Buddy Hield. For those that don't know what Buddy Hield is supposed to do, everyone thinks Harrison Barnes is letting players get by him. And it just seems to be a more difficult thing to pick up. Now, listening to Scott Perry's philosophies on a basketball team, listening to him talk about enhancing the identity of this roster, listening to him yesterday talk about what he expects the identity of this roster to be, it's like, okay, this kid might not be the best defender right now, but clearly, based on those, I'm going to call them principles. That might not be the exact word it should be, but let's call them principles that Scott Perry laid out for the Sacramento Kings. He expects Maxime Raynaud to be able to play defensively. He expects him to be able to keep up with Doug Christie is going to want to do defensively. Now let's hit the pause button right there. He is a second-round pick. Now, the position in which he plays certainly got people's attention because there's a number of things you can do here. I think a lot of us expect Trey Lyles to be gone. And Trey was a big who could stretch the floor. He was a big who was more comfortable stretching the floor than Domantas Sabonis was. Of course, he rarely played the 5. He prominently played the 4. But now you have a situation where if you wanted to use a true big, potentially a rim protector who could pull out to the three-point line a little bit, maybe you have that option. I know a lot of people immediately think, hey, what does this mean for Jonas Valanciunas? I caution everybody to hold up on that because, again, he's a second-round pick. This brother might play in Stockton. He could certainly be on the main roster, but he could also be there as, the last guy on the bench, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm saying let's not be too quick to try to dissect what this looks like. But, of course, that's what we do, man. It's the offseason. When we get back here Monday, it's the start of free agency. When we get back here Monday, things are going to be happening. Now, whether they're happening with the Sacramento Kings remains to be seen. There's a lot of really good reporting from my friend Matt George about what the market looks like for some of these Sacramento Kings players, particularly Malik Monk, who we have talked about extensively over the course of the last couple of days, particularly since the draft, particularly since Nick was drafted. It was like, Now, we started to, it was probably earlier this week, maybe late last week, where we started to, pose the question like, do you need Malik Monk and DeMar DeRozan? If you move one, you have to keep the other, right? And I think for so long the idea was, well, the Sacramento Kings are moving DeMar DeRozan because, he doesn't fit. All right. He's a ball stopper. All right, cool. So you got to keep Malik in that situation. Then you start to listen a little closer. Then you start to get into these text exchanges and you're like, man, are we? Then you just start to look at the surface of this basketball team. You have to ask the question, are we sure DeMar DeRozan doesn't work here? Now, I think we know DeMar DeRozan doesn't work with the roster as it's currently constructed. But everyone's of the belief that this roster has to change, right? So if the roster changes, does DeMar DeRozan make more sense? If DeMar DeRozan winds up making more sense for the Sacramento Kings, does that make Malik Monk more expandable? And the real tough question is, does Malik Monk have a market? Don't get it twisted. I'm not a pizza guy. but I'm a Malik Monk guy. If Malik Monk plays in Sacramento next year, I'm going to root for him. I'm going to cheer for him. I'm a fan of Malik Monk. If Malik Monk plays somewhere else, I'm going to root for him. I'm going to cheer for him because I'm a fan of Malik Monk. I like the way he plays. I like his vibe. I like his energy. I like what he brings to the team. I like what he brings to the city. I love how much the fan base adores him. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know if you need both of them. I think you can move Malik, but the harsh reality might be, as Matt George was reporting last night, there might not be a robust market for him. And I can co-sign that a little bit because I know last year we got ourselves into a tizzy about what was going to happen when Malik Monk became a free agent. Money dried up, dog. Those aren't my words. Those are his. It wasn't there for him. All of those offers that we thought might be there, they weren't. We're going to talk a lot more about Malik.